Hey guys, so this time I made a benchtop sander table, and it's gonna be kind of nice. If you're like any woodworker anywhere, you kick up a lot of sawdust, and I really don't mind the big stuff. It's the really small, thin, powdery coat stuff that just gets over everything. So, gosh, it only took me about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 hours to make this whole thing. And I was actually able to make it out of all scrap wood. So, if you got to pick some wood up, probably a half a sheet of plywood and some pegboard, and that's really all you'll need. I also picked up this little, diffuser or exhaust port, whatever, from Rockler, and that was really only a few bucks. And I made this little cleat that just kind of sits right here, and you put it on there, and when you're sanding, pretty hard, you have something to push up against. So, really great project. And if you want to see more about it, check out woodlogger.com. And here's the video of what I did to make it. So to start off, I cut the pegboard to the correct length and width, and we'll use that for the top of the table. And next up, I'm cutting the sides of the box, and it's 5 inches wide, and I cut all of those at the same time so that they would be a consistent width. It's a good little trick. You always want to try and keep um, widths of board as it's exactly the same as much as possible. And fortunately for me, I actually had a lot of scrap wood that I was able to reuse, and that's why you're seeing a lot of different boards kind of popping up here. Things just scrap wood that I've had laying around for a little while now. Okay, next up, yep, I'm cutting the boards to width, and that went by pretty quick. And tried to do consistent cuts again as much as possible to make sure that everything fits together very nicely. Okay, and so now I'm actually cutting a 3/16 inch rabbet that is a half an inch deep, and there again I'm cutting the sides of the rabbet as well so that the joints can all flush together on the box. And I didn't get my full depth there. I actually don't show it in the video, but I cut the rest of it on my table saw. And for the exhaust port, or I guess the intake for the dust collector, I used a Forstner bit that I had that was about 1.5 inches. It's about a 2 inch port, so if I had a larger Forstner bit, I would have used it, but I think this is close enough, and you can certainly use a jigsaw and just cut it out if you needed to. For the assembly, really, it's a box, and it's a shop tool. This isn't you know, um, the kind of project that you're gonna want to show off. So, just simple glue and screws is what I use to put this all together, and came together pretty quickly, actually. And I did clamp it up. Um, and then realized that if I really want to keep the box square, that I better go ahead and put the top in, um, just to kind of keep it square and to kind of keep it, um, you know, level on on all sides of the box. And I did pre-drill all the holes, and my 7-year-old wanted to help out a little bit, so you may see his head kind of peeking in here on and off several times throughout the video. And he thinks all this stuff is pretty cool. Hopefully, he'll still think that in a few years from now. The On the inside, I installed it's called a baffle, and it's really an important. It's probably one of the most important pieces of the box. It serves a couple of different purposes. It cuts the airflow that has to go on inside in half, and which increases the air pressure. And then the other thing is it equalizes out the airflow across the top of the table so that you have a more even airflow pulling the dust in. And here I'm just kind of getting measurements along the sides, trying to make sure that I get it all dialed in and screwed in correctly on the sides. I had a scrap piece of MDF which I kind of debated on whether I should use or not. I hate MDF. Always hated it. I used it for a project, and I've got so much scrap that I just need to get rid of it. So, shop tools or shop jigs are certainly the best place I can think of to kind of get rid of that stuff whenever I don't need it. And as far as the height and width of this, I custom cut it because you want to have a snug fit, and you want to try and get it as airtight as you can. Um, and one of the things that I did to try and make it a little more airtight was to just use glue along the seams where I've got some gaps, and it's a pretty thin gap. I'd say it's maybe a 1/32, maybe on both sides. And if I had caulking, I would have just done a bit of caulk along there. Instead, I just used glue, and we'll see if it holds up over time. I know it's shown in the video, but I actually do the same thing on both sides, and certainly seemed to kind of fill the hole in there, and I don't know, maybe it'll reinforce it a little bit. Um, but it was definitely a kind of a cheap way to go. And here's the top. Almost done. I've got the top on now. And as far as securing that down, I pre-drilled holes in all four sides, and I did cut my top so that the holes would line up nicely on the sides of the box, and you'll see that they all do line up pretty well. Came really close on both sides, but fortunately my dimensions were right on where I could pull that off. And as far as screwing those in, I did countersink them just a smidgen beneath the surface. Don't think I'll run a risk of getting anything scratched up, but I did want to try and get it as flush as I could. And here on the bottom, I'm actually installing some rubber stoppers on the bottom. So you can imagine a power sander kind of going across the surface of that is gonna want to make that box scoot quite a bit, and at the very least, it's gonna want to vibrate quite a bit. So put some rubber stoppers on the bottom of it. Those were pretty cheap. Got those online, and seems to work pretty well. I haven't done a full project as far as sanding on it, but I have done some testing and seemed pretty solid. Nothing was moving around on me. Here I've got the universal dust port, I believe is what it's called, and they had a dust port that went just kind of straight out at 90 degrees. I decided to do an angle. I don't know. Maybe in hindsight, I should have just gone straight out with it. I was thinking originally that I would just kind of point it downward, but when I kind of played around with it, it seemed like it was going to be really close to the top of the table, so I decided to just invert it and point it up instead. And that assembly goes pretty quick. You know, there's not a lot of rocket science to putting this stuff together. I may go back and kind of put some caulking around the sides of the desk board on the outside, just to further insulate the air from flowing around it. And here I am. I just kind of lined it up one more time, and once it looked pretty good, I'm tightening it up. And here's the final product. I don't know if you can notice there's a small cleat on the bottom left. And if you want to see more about this, just check out my other videos at woodlogger.com.